All right, finna go to get started. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Life of a Champ podcast, episode number 81. Talking about who you were, who you are right now, and who you will be. So, this is going to be an interesting podcast for sure. So, if you're making it in here, or if you're watching, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. All right, we'll get into this. We'll get into this one, fellas. All right, so yeah, there's going to be a lot of different things that I want to cover on this that are definitely going to be very pivotal to the people that do need it, which I would say everybody's going to need this podcast. If I'm going to be honest with you, everybody's going to need this podcast. Now, everyone's not going to watch this podcast, sadly, but everyone will need this podcast because there are certain things you can take from this podcast that most people haven't done. So there's always going to be some more work that you could have put into yourself. So this is definitely one of these podcasts if you do need it. Other than that, make sure you go ahead and leave a like and watch my YouTube video that I posted today, and I think I posted one yesterday as well, if I'm not mistaken. Make sure to leave a like on those and also watch it. And also make sure you go and follow my TikTok Life of Champ podcast on TikTok. Other than that, one thing I really want to emphasize as well. This is very, very important. I just hit 50,000 total views on this channel, so this is definitely an exciting moment for sure. I had posted a short, I think, yesterday, and the short had the most views that I've ever had in a short, which was like 3.4K nearly, and so that was pretty nice. That's pretty nice. Pushed me over the edge to 50K before the end of the year, so that was pretty cool. All right, KJ, appreciate you for stopping by, man. Come on now, coming in clutch as usual, man. All right, so give me 1 second, fellas. All right, so we're gonna go get started, right? So asking these questions are going to be very pivotal. I didn't realize the significance of this until the other day. I was watching this one video, and it allowed me. Well, I'll actually put you guys onto the podcast. The podcast was the Roommates podcast with Hamza. So if you know anything about the self development space, I've been in tune with them for a while now. Give me 1 second. Hold up, man. All right, perfect. Yeah. So if you know anything about the self development space, I've been watching them for years now, and I've learned a lot of different things from both of them. Hafiz and Hamza. And one of the things that I picked up on, which isn't something that they said, but is something that I know I needed to reflect, and I still haven't exactly done it fully to all the way that I would like. But like I said, this is something significant, and I definitely wanted to talk about it for sure. All right, so first question you need to ask yourself, right? Who were you? Hmm, that's a good question. Let me tell you why that's a good question. Because it can allow you to reflect on the person that you were, right? The decisions that you made in order to be that person that you were, right? So, my recommendation is for you to reflect on all the certain ages that were significant. So for me, this is something that I, like I said, have yet to do, but this is something that I'm going to do within this week, by the end of this week. I want to reflect on who I was at 16, 17, 18, and 19 and 20. Right? Obviously, I'm 20 right now. But I feel like doing this will allow you to kind of set yourself in the moment and take yourself back into that moment that you were living, right? And with that being said, I just think that there's so much significance and lessons that you can kind of see, so you do not repeat those same mistakes, right? Because there's going to be mistakes that you made in your past, right? There's going to be inconveniences that happened, and maybe if you can reflect on those things, you can see if there's something in your life right now that maybe is leaning towards um, something that, like I said, was significant in the past. So you can learn to avoid those things, right? So yeah, reflect on significant moments. Reflect on what you learned, because this is also very, very important, right? You need to analyze what you've learned, because there is going to be things that you did learn, or at least should have learned from your past, right? And with that being said, not only about yourself but about the world as well, right? What did you learn about the world? And I feel like that question right there is very, very interesting. As of, I would say, the last 3 or 4 years, I've learned so much about the world, and I can't, honestly, I can't wait to write it down and do all that. But this is just an idea that I had today. So, um, but yeah, that is definitely going to be very, very pivotal when it comes to reflecting on who you were for sure. Another thing you can go ahead and ask yourself is what are things that you regret doing, right? What are certain things that maybe held you back, that either you regret doing or wish that you did do, right? So this can, like I said, this can allow you to be in the moment and allow you to say, hey, well, maybe there's a moment like this in my life right now that is similar to that moment, and I wish I would have did something different in that moment, but I didn't. Now here's your moment to say, hey, well, now that I'm in the present moment, there are certain things that I recognize that I need to go ahead and do because in the past maybe I wouldn't have done that. But now I'm a different person now, and with this reflection and with my current circumstance in life, I need to go ahead and do this, right? So those are all the questions that you need to ask yourself when it comes to reflecting on your past self. And like I said, me more specific. I'm going to be putting time forth when it comes to reflecting on who I was as a person who was just getting out of high school. And with that being said, like I said, that is something that I definitely need to do because. And here's another good point, right? It'll allow you to tell a better story about yourself, right? Because you're intentionally reflecting back on who you were, right? And with this podcast and stuff like that, I want to be able to truly take you back to a time vividly where I can vividly remember everything because I strategically in the present moment tried tried to do that, right? So yeah, that's gonna help me tell the story a little bit better about who I am and who I was, right? This is the Life of the Champ podcast, so you are going to get fulfilled with who I am and who I was because that is very very important to who I am and who I will become. All right. So with that being said, all right, we'll get into the next point. Like I said, if you have any questions or any input regarding um, the topic for today, or maybe some insight on what you would do and how you would do it when it comes to reflecting on your past self, on who you are right now, on who you will eventually become, right? Make sure you go and leave it in the comments just so you can help the people out. Isaac, appreciate you for stopping by. GDP, as usual, appreciate you for stopping by. All right, which brings me to my next point, right? Who are you? Now, this is a question that, like I said, you should know very very thoroughly, right? And I would say reflect specifically when you ask yourself that question. Reflect specifically on this year of your life, right? So for me, I'm 20 years old. So reflecting on who I was throughout this entire span of me being 20, and if I'm going to be honest with you, I started this podcast at the beginning of this year, so January 7th, so almost 11 months ago, which is fantastic, right? Um, with that being said, right, I have completely changed my ways of thinking and the way that I see the world, probably more than any specific year period of time that I've had in my life. So, you guys would have seen the journey if you guys watched from the beginning. But if you didn't, then like I said, at least you get to watch from right now. But reflecting on who you are right now, what are the things holding you back? Right? There's many different questions you can ask yourself. Right? What are the things that are holding you back? What are the things that you specifically learned this year? What are your current pursuits? Then another question you can ask yourself is, do you spend your time effectively and efficiently? Right? And if you're lacking on any of these things, right? Obviously, fellas, you guys know what you need to do. And this podcast is going to give you information on what you know you need to do, right? This is going to give you a second to be mindful of the things that you know you need to do, and so you can go ahead and do them, right? So ask yourself these questions about yourself to get to know yourself a little bit more. Obviously, you know yourself better than anyone, but asking yourself these questions will allow you to, like I said, make you feel present. And like I said, if there's adjustments that need to be made, then of course you're going to need to go ahead and make them. Another question you can ask yourself is, are you where you want to be? Right? This is a question that I always ask myself. And I'm my biggest critic, if you know me personally. So of course, I'm never where I want to be. But could you be in a better position? I feel like that's a better question you need to ask yourself. Could you be in a better position? And if that is a yes, and you watching this podcast, of course, it's going to be a yes. So, like I said, what do you need to do? What do you need to cut out? More importantly, right? I feel like a lot of people let distractions and let negative people into their lives, and obviously, you don't keep that around here, right? Uh, Good vibes and no vibes. Come on now, that's my vibe always. Come on now. Um, but asking yourself these questions, like I said, are going to give you a more vivid picture on who you are and who you have become over this year span. Um, and with that being said, like I said, you need to make the adjustments because the adjustments are going to need to be made, right? All right, so let me see. Give me 1 second. Also, if you have a question, make sure you go ahead and leave it in that question. I don't know. I posted this something on YouTube and it says ask a question. So ask a question if you do have one. Give me 1 second. All right. All right. All right, we're back. All right. And another thing I want to mention as well. Okay, this is very very significant, right? Okay, okay. Getting into the next point of who you will become, right? I wanted to make this very very clear. You need to say things like this. I will become who I know I am. Take that in for a second, right? When it comes to evaluating who you want to be, the life that you want to live, the thing you need to be mindful of is I will become what I know I am already, right? It's saying these affirmations that are going to put you in a better position for your life in general, right? If you claim that position, then you will eventually have that position, right? Obviously, there's going to be need to be work that's going to be put in. I'm not saying that you could just say things and it's magically going to come from thin air. But what I will say is, having these beliefs are not going to do any negative in your life, especially if you're putting the action behind what you say, right? And if you're a person of your word, which you watching this podcast should be a person of your word, become the person that you know you need to be, right? You'll become who you know you should be in general, right? Like I said, you want to be able to manifest. You want to be able to manifest who you will be, right? By like I said, saying these things are going to be they're going to put you in front of a lot of people because a lot of people do not even think this specific way. So definitely be mindful of that for sure. Another question when it comes to who you want to be in the future: what life are you trying to avoid? Right? Let's just say, like I said, you're not doing the best that you possibly could be doing, right? But there's obviously always going to be a worse scenario. Maybe, hey, I don't want to do this. I don't want to live this life. I don't want to, stay in my current situation, right? Asking yourself these questions of where you don't want to be in the future is going to give you more of a vivid picture if you're still lacking on who you want to be in the future, right? And don't be afraid to think very very big when it comes to who you will be, right? Do not think do not be afraid to do not be afraid to think big when it comes to who you will be, even if it doesn't even matter how old you are, right? Never set limitations on yourself ever. That's something that if you watch this podcast, I talk about all the time. I do not believe in self limitations, right? Your ceiling your ceiling is as high as you make it. It's as high as you say it is, right? Big Sean has a good quote that I love. He goes, "Made my blueprint, so my life got no ceiling." Right? It is as simple as that, right? Do not set a limit on what your potential could be, because then of course you will prove yourself right. You will say, "Hey, my max is right here," and guess what? You'll be exactly right. Your max is going to be right there. But if you truly believe that your max is unlimited, then you'll never know where you can tap into, because like I said, your potential is going to be unlimited. Um, but going back to what I was originally saying, right, with who you will become. What are like I said, what are some paths that you need to avoid, right? There's certain traps that are placed within society, whether you see it or not, right? This is something that I've observed time and time again. There's certain traps that I've seen that a lot of people fall into, right? And you need to just be an observer of life and recognize that there's certain patterns of behaviors and there's certain traps that people fall into, right? Learn to avoid those traps. Like I said, you need to be very very careful when it comes to your observations on what you see around you, right? And this is something that I've been very very conscious of. Is like I said, being conscious of the ones around me, the decisions they make, and like I said, does it reap the benefit that they want, right? Are they living the life that they want? So why did they make that decision, right? Analyzing all these things is going to help you avoid the path that you do not want to go down, right? And like I said, that is something that you should be very, very mindful of for sure. Give me one second. All right. Another thing is, what are things that you seem or that seem like a worthy pursuit? Let's just say you see other people doing a certain thing, and you're like, hey, well, maybe I might be interested in that, right? Okay, then go ahead and do that, right? What are things that seem to you to be a worthy pursuit, right? And even if you can't fully see yourself doing it, if it's something that piques your interest a little bit, go ahead and try to do it, right? There's no harm in trying to do it, right? At the very least, you'll learn something about yourself, whether you like to do it or whether you don't like to do it, or whether you can do it or whether you can't do it. And around here, we don't learn about what we can't do. That's for damn sure, right? Um, but yeah, you need to be very very conscious of this because like I had mentioned, right? Imagine yourself as the person that you will become. You know that you will become this person, so therefore, how does this person act? Even asking yourself, how does this person treat people, right? That's another thing that goes back that can even go back to who you were. How did you treat people? How did you treat people back then, right? What type of character traits did you have? What type of character traits do you wish you didn't had, right? There's certain problems that probably came up and you acted a certain way or handled it a certain way, and maybe next time that you're in a similar position, maybe you avoid that, right? Um, Especially with who you are right now, maybe there's a lesson that you didn't exactly fully internalize from the past, but now reflecting on it and saying, hey, well, maybe I didn't have that situation the best way that I possibly could. Like let's just say a random situation, like maybe somebody disrespected you and you got out of hand, right? Or you took it way too far, right? And not to say that if somebody disrespects you, that's okay. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there's a certain way to address disrespect, which I'll be making a podcast on very very soon if you are unaware. There's a certain way to address disrespect, right? But let's just say in the past you didn't handle it correctly, you got into a fight, or you didn't handle it correctly and you started going off on that person, right? Well, now you're in the present moment. You are where you are now, right? And with that being said, what are ways that you could have went about that situation better, right? So, like I said, if let's just say tomorrow a situation were to happen where you kind of already been through that similar situation, right? You know how to act. You know how to act in accordance to what you need to act with a lesson being learned, right? So asking yourself these questions are definitely going to be very very important for sure. Give me one second, hold up. Yeah, and having this thorough understanding that the now will be who you were, right? So with that being said, in the future, are you going to be happy with who you were, right? And that is something that a lot of people do not think about, right? A lot of people do not think that deep. And that is something that I think about all the time, right? Am I acting in accordance to, let's just say future champ was looking back at past champ, which is the now champ, right? Um, is he going to be proud of? Is he going to be proud of the things that he was doing? Is he going to criticize certain ways of his being, right? And if you see yourself doing something that you know your future self is going to kick you in the ass for, well, then you got to go ahead and make that correction. And I would say almost everybody does this, right? There's certain little things that you do on a daily basis that you probably shouldn't be doing, but you do them anyways. Why you do them? Your guess is as good as mine because you keep doing them, right? Um, but yeah, just understanding and having that little paradigm shift when it comes to, like I said, understanding that your now will be your past and your future will be your now, right? Sounds kind of confusing, but I hope you understand. Um, yeah, that's what it comes down to, right? Analyzing and asking yourself the questions when it comes to who you are, who you were, and who you will become. I got to comment real quick. I feel like when you're broke, this is the best time to grow because now you will see what you are doing, and when you're up, people will know what you've been doing. We take W's not L's. Exactly. Katie's of course spitting facts as usual, man. I definitely agree. I definitely agree. Right. You gotta let them see the growth, man. You gotta let them see the growth, man. Simple as that. Yeah, but if you guys have any specific remarks regarding either advice or rather input on who you are, who you were, or who you want to become, make sure to go and leave in the comments. Give me one second. Y'all got no questions, man. Y'all got no questions. That's crazy, man. Come on now. Also, just because I got more people in here now, I just hit 50,000 total views on this channel. So shout out to me. Like I said, the hard work is paying off now. Like I said, there's definitely more work to be put in, but it's paying off for sure. All right. Yeah, this is definitely a podcast that, like I said, is going to be more clear in the future, especially with you, on your path that you're going towards. Right, this is going to be something that hopefully is going to be a little bit more clear, and at the very least, you're going to be more mindful of these situations. Shout out to Chris, man. Chris for the one time, man. Appreciate you for stopping by, my guy. Come on now. All right, for the one time, man. For the one time, man. If you know, you know, and if you don't, then you don't, man. Simple. All right. Yeah, that's one thing. Like I said, is for the one time exactly. With reflecting on who you were, right? Yeah, that like I said, you're gonna be able to tell your story better because you're going to know specifically who you were. And if you're just like me, right? For example, right? My memory's not the greatest, right? I'll admit that my memory's not the greatest. So when it comes back to reflecting on like who I was at like 18 or 19, right? Even though that wasn't that far ago, I have to consciously I have to consciously focus more on who I specifically was, because in just in the grand scheme of life, right? You kind of conflate everything with who you are right now, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking from the way that I see life myself, but um, making that clear distinction on, oh yeah, this was me at this certain age. This is who he was. This is what his mindsets were, and these are the decisions that he made, right? Or her that she made, right? Being very, very mindful of those things. Like I said, it's going to be very, very beneficial when it comes to telling your story, right? Everyone has a story to tell. Whether you're willing to tell it is up to you. But with that being said, having a little bit of more, I would say research on yourself, right? Research on who you were, right? This is something that I'm going to do. So, like, let's just say a certain time comes up and I remember, hey, I remember when I did this one podcast, right? I remember when I thought about and sat down and thought about who I was at this age. I can say, hey, yeah, when I was that age, I did this and this and this. Right, just being mindful of those things like that. So your future self will thank you. Does that make sense? Yeah, and it's all about directing your this entire podcast is all about kind of directing you towards the path that you need to go anyways, right? So, reflecting on who you were, all that's doing is putting yourself in a more present position so you can recognize all your insufficiencies, all the things you did good, all the things you did bad, so it can help you benefit you right now, right? All the things that you reflect on right now are all things that are going to put you back on the path that you need to go. And all the things that you will think about and who you will become are all the things that you need to do right now that will eventually lead you to that person that you will become, right? If that makes sense to you guys. That's a good question right there, my guy. That's a good question right there. Everything you want comes with the cost. How much are you willing to pay? Hmm. That is a good question. That is a good question, fellas. And with that being said, how much are you willing to pay? Right? How much are you willing to sacrifice, more importantly, right? How much are you willing to sacrifice for the life that you want to live, right? And if you're not very, very serious about life, then you're not going to be willing to make the sacrifices that you need to make. It's as simple as that. You're not willing to pay the price. You might say you want these things, but you're not willing to pay the price, right? And if you're not willing to pay the price, then just don't talk about it then. That's the way I look at life, right? There's a lot of people that I've met in this life where they talk about these certain things, but they just don't have no action behind it. They're not willing to pay the price. They're not willing to make the sacrifices, but they still talk about this life that they want. Don't talk to me about it. I do not want to hear it. In the most respectfully, I do not want to hear it because, quite frankly, if you're not making, if you're not consciously doing the things that you need to do, if you're not making the sacrifices that you need to make, if you're not paying what it's going to cost, then why are you just fantasizing about a life that you want to live when there's no action behind it, right? There's no You're not being serious. You're not being serious. It's almost like you're taken into like a dream world, like a dream state, right? And if you're a person that wants to live that reality, right? Don't just talk about it. You got to be about it, right? And I'm a person who's going to be an advocate for action because I'm a person of action, right? Um, and everyone could be a person of action, right? It's just a matter of, like I said, are you willing to pay the price? Shout out to Chris, man. All right, give me one second. Give me one second. All right, going back to who you are. Like I said, what changes do you need to make, man? Ask yourself these hard questions because these questions that I came up with for this podcast, right? These are going to be the hard questions that you might not be wanting to ask yourself because maybe it'll make you feel uncomfortable, right? And a lot of people view self development that way, and that's why a lot of people do not develop themselves to the potential that they know they could be, right? Is because they're unwilling, they're truly, truly unwilling to get into that uncomfortable space because it allows them to truly reflect, to take the ultimate accountability on who they are right now. Hold up, man. Man, that should have been the way this whole time, man. All right, that's fine. Yeah, people are unwilling to analyze where they are right now. Maybe they're just caught up in the past, or maybe they're caught up in where the future can be. Right, when like I said, if your now is not aligned to where you want to become, then of course you'll never be that. And if, like I said, if you don't reflect on your past, then you're never going to learn from the lessons of your past, and you're going to repeat the same mistakes that you made before, right? Most people are going to say, "Hey, are you where you want to be right now? Are you content with where you are right now?" If your answer is yes, you better be doing everything. You better be doing the most. Your schedule better be packed. Your schedule better be packed of just life fulfilling things always, always, always putting in the work, right? And if you're putting in the work, shout out to you. Everybody watching this podcast should be putting in the work. So shout out to you guys. All right. Yeah, you just analyze, right? What are the pursuits that you're pursuing right now, right? Are they worthy pursuits, right? A lot of people spend a lot of time on a lot of different things that are not worthy, that serve them no purpose in this life. And that's something that I always just don't understand, right? I'll give you one example, right? Let's just say people that obsessively play video games, right? If you don't get paid for video games, I do not know what you're doing playing video games personally. I really don't, right? And is it a good time? I'm not saying it's not a good time, right? I was a person who played video games, and I loved playing video games because it was always a good time, right? But at the same time, is it going to give you the life that you want to live? And if you ask me that question, and of course, I'm going to answer with hell no, because it was something that consumed a lot of time. It consumed a lot of focus. And honestly, with me, like I said, I'll speak for myself, but I'm sure a lot of people can resonate with this. Playing video games pissed me off for no reason at all, right? If you look at it, if you're an observer of somebody who plays video games and they get pissed off at the video game, now I can understand them because I'm a person who played video games. But if you just truly observe them, you're like, man, you're getting pissed off for something that doesn't even exist in the real world, really, right? And it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny to look at it that way. And honestly, it is kind of belittling to the people that do play video games. But at the same time, you're you are literally living the best video game of all time. It's called life, right? You can make changes that is going to affect the outcome of who you will be, right? And this is something that a lot of people do not like to hear, right? This is a long game, right? This is the long game, truly, right? This is the biggest game that there is, right? Now, people are not willing to put in the work that it takes, right? People are not willing to lay down the bricks, right? They're just not. And to those people, like I said, just do something. Do something great with your life, man. Just try to do something great, man. Do not just settle for do not settle for average, right? And if you're watching this podcast, I wish that you're not settling for average, because this podcast is not meant for average people. It's not meant for average minded people. It's really not. Um, it's meant strictly for people who want to elevate their lives, who want to become a better person, for themselves, and not only for themselves but for everyone else around them, right? This is why I create the podcast, right? To have great conversations, to hopefully give the game to some people, and to hopefully affect people's lives and the ones around them, right? More importantly. All right, give me 1 second. Also, if you're watching this on Twitch, make sure you go ahead and leave a follow as well. And one more time, I posted 2 videos that are about 6 minutes long, and I think one's like a 3-minute long video. So make sure you go ahead and tap in with those. I posted them like the last few days. Come on now. No, that's not what it is, man. So you got to play 2K? No. Come on now. Can't, man. You can't, man. You can if you want, man. You can if you want to knock yourself out, but at the same time, man, how serious do you take life? And a lot of people do not take life serious enough. That's for sure. I'm a person, if you observe, I'm a person who takes life very, very serious, right? And anyone that doesn't take life as serious as me, not that it's a competition or worthy of comparison, but at the same time, it's just like there's certain things that I'm just not going to be able to take you serious on, right? It's as simple as that, right? And even if it's a joke, man, jokes get tiring after a while, man. Let's just be honest, right? Another thing, do not joke. Do not joke about your failures. Do not joke about your shortcomings. Do not joke about any of those things, right? Because that's not a joke, man. That's not a joke, man. I'm not laughing. I'm not laughing at those things, right? And here's the thing: if I'm laughing at you, not with you. And it's as simple as that. But yeah, like I said, a lot of people just don't take life serious, man. They don't ask themselves the questions. They don't reflect on who they were, who they are right now, and who they want to become. They're either so transfixed on their current circumstance, and with reflecting on who you are you falling into temptation always? Are you falling into your impulses? Are you impulsively reacting to all the things that you know feel good, right? For example, right? Let's just say you are not your diet is not the best, right? You're a person who falls into temptation, falls into their human impulses, when in reality you should be doing something different, right, with your life, right? Do not be a person who just falls into these impulses, right? Just because it feels good in the moment doesn't mean it's going to feel good in 10 years, or it just doesn't mean it's going to feel good within the here's the thing, the end of the year, right? Do not be a person that falls into these things. Now, there is a time and a place to indulge within the moment, right? And those times and places will come and go, right? But at the same time, every single day or every few days a week, maybe that's not going to be the best thing for you in your future long term. If you're concerned about your future long term, which if you're watching this podcast, you should be, then like I said, you need to go ahead and make the sacrifices. Which goes back to what Chris said, man. Are you willing to pay the cost? If you're not, then you're not. That's fine. It's fine. Just don't talk about the life that you want, man. Just don't talk about the life that you want, because truly, do you want the life that you say you want? And that answer is no, because you're not acting in accordance to what that will reap eventually. So, like I said, I ain't trying to hear it, man. I ain't trying to hear it, man. I ain't trying to hear no pity party, man. Simple as that, man. Yeah, one more time, I want to emphasize this real quick. I will become who I know and what I know I am, right? Like I said, that is right there. That is one of the most important things that you can probably take from this podcast. I will become what I know and who I am, right? Reflecting on that is going to be very, very critical when it comes to your development and understanding who you're eventually going to um who you're going to be. There you go, my boy. There you go. Currently exercising while listening to the Life of Champ podcast. Come on now, you know what time it is, man. That's the only way to do it, man. That's the only way to do it. Yeah, hit the like. Make sure you go hit the like, man. You gotta want to be better. You gotta want to be better, not only for yourself, but like I said, for the people around you. The people around you deserve the best version of yourself, and you cannot disagree with that, right? The people, like I said, for me, for example, right? The people around me deserve nothing more than the best version of myself, right? Why would I want to give anything less to the people who are, who mean a lot to me? Why do I want to give them anything less than what they truly deserve, right? And with thinking about who you are and who you want to become, you got to reflect on something bigger than yourself, right? This is all good, and this is all good for self-development, but at the same time, are you doing it for a greater cause than yourself, right? Sometimes you're not enough. Let's keep it 1,000, right? That's why people are overweight. That's why they're not living the lives that they want to live, is because they do not think anything bigger than themselves, which is ultimately very, very selfish, in my opinion, right? I always think about something bigger than myself. I always think about the impact that I can have on people and I can have on the people around me, more importantly, right? Um, because like I said, those people mean a lot to me. And if they mean a lot to you, right? Like I said, just make the up the stakes, man. Up the stakes. That's the only way I can really put it, man. Up the stakes, because like I said, you got to take life serious. Man. You got to take life serious. Up the stakes. Don't say, hey, I'm slacking out on this workout. I'm just slacking, and it only affects me, right? That's the way that I see it, right? If I slack on a workout, I'm slacking on my kids, right? That's the way I see it. I really take it that deep. I really take it that deep because, like I said, I take life serious, right? Or maybe here's the thing. Maybe I missed that workout. Maybe that could have been the workout that pushed me to look a certain way where I can attract my wife, right? It is that deep, right? Life is really that deep, right? Life has those consequences eventually, right? Um, Now whether you see that is up to you, right? But you got to be able to see past your current situation. You got to be able to see past that, because if you don't, then like I said, you'll fall into temptation and you will fall a victim of your impulses, right? Just because it can feel good doesn't mean you should do it. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. Just because you can does not mean you should, right? And a lot of people think that they want to, or that they can, that they just should, which is not always the case. Not always the case, man. Like I said, obviously it's gonna vary, but at the same time, you gotta know when to pick your battles, man. You gotta know when to make the sacrifices. Like Chris had mentioned, right? Are you willing to pay the cost? Are you willing to pay the cost? All right. All right, fellas. I'm gonna go ahead and end it off here in a few minutes. So make sure you go ahead and leave a like. Also, if you have any more input or any questions for me, make sure you go ahead and leave in the comments just so I can answer that real quick. All right. I'm trying to mess with this new update that I got on my iMac. So give me 1 second, fellas. Nobody out here asking questions, man. Come on now. Where y'all at, man? KJ, come on, hold it down as usual. GDP, where you at, man? Come on now. Those are the day ones, man. Those are the day ones, man. So make sure you go ahead and leave in the comments, man. Just ask me a question, something, man. How do you keep pushing even though things don't go right in the first place? You got to have the ultimate faith in your future, right? You got to understand that, like I said, life is a long game, dude. Life's such a long game, especially if you're young, man. Life is such a long game. You just play the long game, man. That's all it is, man. Play the long game. This is not a race, man. This is a marathon, right? And obviously that's something cliche as hell. And I do not. Obviously, I'm a person who doesn't want to hear that, but it's something that needs to be said still, right? And I'm a person who's going to say what needs to be said over what I would like to hear, right? And I hope that you guys respect that watching that, right? Understand that I'm going to tell you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear, right? Here's the thing, if you wanted to hear what you just want to hear, go watch another podcast, man. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, and hopefully, like I said, you can respect that and take something away from that because that is the ultimate goal for sure. Yeah, but that's a good question, man. That's probably a question that a lot of people keep asking themselves. How do you keep pushing even when things don't go right in the first place? Like I said, just understanding that life is a long game, man. We got plenty of time, like Chris said. We got plenty of time, but do not be. There's two different paradigms you can have from. Oh, we have plenty of time. Um, that doesn't mean you should just put things off that you know you need to do. That's what that makes any sense, right? Um, yeah, just like I said, don't abuse that mindset of we got plenty of time, right? Try to use that for the best benefit that you possibly can have, right? Do not just say, "Oh yeah, I got plenty of time. I'm gonna go ahead and put this off. I'm gonna skip this workout. I'm gonna eat this food. I'm gonna whatever." Right? You input whatever you would like, but do not do not abuse that mindset, even though it is something that could be definitely help you out for sure. But I'm kind of reflecting back on your question, KJ. You got to trust and believe that things will go right. You got to trust and believe things will go right if you are acting from your truest self. If you're acting in accordance to know what you need to do, just trust and believe that that's going to pay off, even if it doesn't pay the dividends right away, right? Just believing that it will pay off eventually, right? This is why I'm doing this podcast. This is why I'm on episode number 81, right? The most underrated podcast in the entire world. I keep doing what I know I need to do, right? And I'm pushing even when things don't go right in the first place. I'm still pushing for it, right? And it's because, like I said, I'm playing the long game, right? I'm playing the long game, right? Me doing this for a consistent amount of time is going to reap the benefit eventually, right? I have no doubt. I have no doubt in that because anybody who's pursued something for a long enough time is going to reap the benefit of what they truly deserve. If I put in the work, if I truly put in the work, like I said, I'm gonna put in the work, then I will have what I need, what I know I need to have, right? If I don't, then it'll be shown in due time, right? And it's as simple as that, right? That is basically life, right? That's life, man. That's life. Bad things don't happen to people who truly put in the work, right? And of course, life is situational. But at the same time, if you're a person who's going to be putting in the work, right? And there's this saying that I heard from this one guy, right? He's talking about I never seen anybody. What do you say? What do you say specifically? Hold on, I'm trying to think of the correct one because there's a few of them. I don't know anybody that got big from the gym by by not putting in the work, right? Or like you put in the work. I've never seen anybody that, like I said, didn't put in the work that got the same result, right? It just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. Life doesn't work like that, right? If you put the work in, you're going to get the benefit eventually. You're going to get the benefit. I can't emphasize that enough. So, like I said, you can't be discouraged, right? You can't be discouraged initially. You cannot be initially discouraged because you're setting your expectations too shallow, quite frankly, right? For example, right? Let's just say you're working out at the gym, you want to lose. Let's say you have to lose 100 pounds, right? If you get discouraged that you didn't lose 5 pounds in the first week, you're fucked. Your mindset's fucked, right? Isn't it not? So understanding that, like I said, once you constantly put in the work, once you establish your systems in place, you're going to reap the benefit of having those established systems, right? Do not be so goal oriented. Do not be so goal oriented, right? And it kind of goes against the narratives of productive society right now, right? But you need to focus on, and I've emphasized this on plenty of podcasts. Emphasize on what it needs, what you need, what is it going to take to achieve that? What is it going to take, right? Do that every single day, and in 1 year, let's see if you made progress or not. And if you didn't, then you probably was slacking, right? It's as simple as that, right? It's as simple as that. But here's the thing: if you're not slacking, man, you're going to see the work being put in, right? I'm a perfect example of that, right? I've been on my self development journey for almost 5 years now, right? I started at 17. With that being said, I've seen the growth. I've seen the growth because I put in the time. I put in the hours. I asked myself the right questions, right? I did thorough research on a lot of different topics, right? And that's why I can speak on this and have some credibility, even though I am young. It's because that I've put in the time that other people are not willing to put in on themselves, right? It is something that was first something that felt forced, but eventually it became what I mainly consumed, all my entertainment, right? Most of the things that I want to watch are things that are going to benefit me, right? And I understand that not a lot of people work like that, and that is something that just came so second nature to me. But at first it really wasn't, right? At first it was really a struggle because it was like it was kind of cringe, like the self development stuff. It was kind of cringe at first. I'm not even gonna lie, but at the same time, I seen the benefit from these people, talking about these certain things, and I was like, hey, well, shit, maybe they know what they're talking about, and of course, indeed, they did. And like I said, I'm a walking example. If you put the time in, eventually, you're going to reap the benefit, and you cannot be so result focused, man. I know it's hard. It's hard to detach from the result, but at the same time, if you change what the result is, hmm, it's going to be different, right? If the result is every single day checking off the boxes that you need to check off, that's the result that you're looking for. You might get to your goal a lot faster than if you just said, "Hey, I got this one big goal, and in a few months I might be able to check it off." If you say, "Hey, well, shit, I'm putting in the work right now. I'm checking the box off for the day. I'm good with today. I did what I know I needed to do today." That's all you can control, fellas. All you can control is what you do in the day. That's it, man. That's it. That's the only way to view it, man. If you're doing what you know you need to do right now, today, if you check the box for today, you can be content and satisfied with how the day went, but understand that rent is due every day, fellas. So make sure you got to pay it forth every single day. Simple. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and review everything that I mentioned. Then I'm gonna go ahead and end it off. I appreciate everyone for stopping by. If you like this video, make sure you go ahead and leave a like on the video. Also, follow me on TikTok, Life of a Champ Podcast on TikTok as well. Also, if you do have Twitch, make sure you go ahead and follow my Twitch. Same thing, Life of a Champ Podcast. Appreciate it. But yeah, asking yourself the question of who you were, who you are, and who you will become. These are all questions that you need to ask yourself and to be very, very clear and break them into sections like I had, portrayed within this podcast. You need to ask yourself certain questions that kind of go within that certain section. So, for example, right, who were you, right? Ask yourself things like, what are significant moments that you remember? What are things that you learned from about yourself and about the world, right? What are things that you regret doing, and what are things that you wish you should have did, right? Asking yourself these questions, like I said, is going to give you more of a clear picture of who you were, right? And that's going to be very pivotal because it's going to affect who you are, and that's going to affect who you will become. Um, like I said, a lot of people do not see the utility in these things, and that's why I'm talking about it today, right? Reflecting on the past, there's going to be a lot of utility, right? That's why we remember things, anyways. We remember things to avoid a path that we have went on before, right? We hopefully learn from our mistakes, right? A lot of us don't, but hopefully you learn from your mistakes, and maybe you don't even need the reflection, right? I beg to differ, but maybe you don't need the reflection because you've learned all the lessons that you've learned in your entire life, and you've internalized all of them. I don't believe that, but let's just say you did, right? But if you didn't, like everybody else, fellas, then you got to ask yourself these questions. Like I said, if y'all got questions, man, I'll keep going, man. I'll keep going. Simple. All right. All it is at the end of the day is making sure you're back on the path of righteousness. We'll call it that, the path of righteousness. Maybe that's something that I've heard before, but the path of righteousness. Make sure you're always, even if you steer off path, you're coming back to the same path that you know you need to go on, right? Um, like I said, fellas, I cannot emphasize that enough, right? If you're a person that's slacking right now, well, it's not okay that you were slacking, but it's definitely not okay to continue to slack because you watch this podcast, right? It's definitely not okay. Do not be a person who's conscious of what they're doing, know that they're doing something wrong, and continues to do it, right? Do not be that person, because that person, in my opinion, is what you would call an idiot, right? Don't be an idiot, man. Don't be an idiot, man. Just make sure you're doing what you know you need to do, right? All right, reflecting on who you are. Reflect on life right now. What are things that you feel are holding you back? What are things that you learned from this year? What are your current pursuits? Do you spend your time effectively and efficiently? Are you where you want to be? And if not, what do you need to change? Ask yourself all these questions, man. Man, is the camera falling down, fellas? Hold up, man. The camera's supposed to be right there. I think it's slowly falling down. Man, that's tragic. But ask yourself these questions, man. Ask yourself these questions, right? Be very, very clear with who you are right now, right? Take some time to self-reflect, right? A lot of people do not self-reflect at all. They're so caught up in the day-to-day of life that they just forget that they need to be present in the moment, right? Being present in the moment is going to be very, very key, very key. If you're a person who's not living in the moment, of course you need to be future focused, and of course you need to be conscious of your past. But if you're neglecting the present, then there's no way you could focus on the future, and there's no way you should be too focused on the past. Don't neglect the now. Do not neglect the now, because the now is going to be the future, and the now is also going to be the past as well. And then answering the question of who you will become, right? Having this internalized belief of I will become what I know I am, right? You will become who you are already, right? That's kind of similar to the saying that I mentioned on my the 30 Champ Commandments podcast, episode number 75. Um, be him before you become him. Be her before you become her, right? You got to make sure you're acting in accordance, and eventually you'll become exactly who you want to be, right? You'll become who you know you are. Yeah, these are key beliefs that you need to internalize. Where do you want to be in the near future, right? How do you want to avoid that path? What are things that seem like a worthy pursuit? What lifestyle do you want to live? That right there was one of the most pivotal questions that I ever asked myself in this entire life, right? This is a question that I asked myself when I was 18. I'm not going to go too long into the story, but I just had a mentor who made me reanalyze kind of the way that I seen life, right? He asked me, "Hey, do not ask yourself and answer the question of what job that I want to have, because if you say, "Hey, I want to have this job," then your lifestyle is already set and the amount of money is already set. But if you ask yourself, "What life do I want to live?" Now you're going to get better answers, right? So what lifestyle do you want to live? Okay, well then you're going to need to make this amount of money, and you're going to need to work this type of job, or work this type of job, or do this thing, or start this business, right? Asking yourself these questions are going to be very, very key when it comes to focusing on who you will become. That is one of the ones that, like I said, it changed everything for me. It changed everything for me truly, because I recognized that, hey, maybe I shouldn't follow the same path that I see everyone else following. Maybe I shouldn't go to college. Maybe I shouldn't continue working a job that is not going to benefit me in the way I want to live my life. Maybe I should pursue something that is greater than my current situation, and that is what I'm doing right now with this podcast. Is eventually getting this message out to as many people as I possibly can, and making an impact that is greater than any impact that most people can make, right? And it's as simple as that, fellas. Yeah, The Art of War, that's a good book right there. I've not read it, but I've heard a lot of different things about that book. A lot of different sayings, and a lot of different um yeah, a lot of good things, honestly. A lot of good things from that book. But yeah, I'm glad that you're definitely consuming content that's going to be very beneficial for you. Like I said, that book right there is definitely going to be a good book for sure. But yeah, fellas, I'm gonna go ahead and end this podcast off. I appreciate everyone for stopping by. If you're a new face, make sure you go ahead and subscribe. Also, like I said, if you're watching this, make sure to go ahead and leave a like and also leave a comment on your favorite part of the podcast. Other than that, fellas, like I mentioned, follow me on TikTok, follow me on Twitch. Now I'll hit you with my famous saying, fellas. Well, first, this was the Life of a Champ podcast, episode number 81, talking about who you were, who you are, and who you will become. Right. Along with that, fellas over here, we don't just work around here, man. We do not just work. We outwork. So make sure you're outworking these motherfuckers every single day. Never skip a day because your opponent isn't. Right. And with that being said, you guys have a good rest of your night. The next podcast is going to be on Thursday, so make sure you tap in with that. If there's any specific type of content that you want me to make or any questions that you have that'd be good for a podcast topic, make sure you go ahead and leave it in the comments. But other than that, fellas, you guys have a good rest of your night, and stay tuned in for Thursday, man.